Hello. This is Kina Caldwell's course overview for the Diva Dive Powerful Archetypes in Women's Lives. The topics covered will be the course subject and audience, the method used, design process, assessment, and control. First up, the course. The subject will be Goddesses in Every Woman, Powerful Archetypes in Women's Lives. The level of instruction will be grade level blended learning, and the audience will be students in grade levels 9 to 12. The method used is the outcome-based education method, which encourages participants to take ownership of their learning by requiring them to take a hands-on approach. And I want students to take the knowledge they've learned and apply those theories to their everyday lives immediately. For the design process, I used Fink's 3-column table to aid me in fleshing out this course, defining the learning outcomes and activities that I want to take place. So looking at the 3-column table, the Diva Dive, a deep look into the powerful archetypes in women. My big, hairy, audacious goal is learners will cultivate a significant learning environment that encourages student ownership, choice, and voice through authentic learning experiences by discovering the powerful archetypes in women's lives and applying them to their everyday way of thinking. So, for the foundational learning goal, learners will examine the fundamentals of goddesses as inner images and how they are activated in the real world. The learning activity for this foundational goal, we will begin reading the book Goddesses in Every Woman. We'll also listen to a radio interview with the author, Jean Shinoda Bolin, as she discusses the power of the feminine, and students will also have a discussion post as their activity to wrap up this learning goal here. The application, learners will analyze the virgin, vulnerable, and alchemic goddesses. There are videos for each type of those archetypes. And then there will be a discussion post for each one. And then as they go along, they'll be adding to a shared Google Doc. I definitely wanted to make sure that blended learning was being used, throughout this course. And that involves the use of technology. So I always want to make sure my students are utilizing tools and learning skills that they can not only take with them to succeed in my class, but also in their other classes and moving further on up. As I said before, the grade level for this in the audience, is a higher level grade level, in high school. So I definitely want to make sure that they're getting practice in what they may experience in college, and or, if they take up a trade, or jump right into the working world. For the integration stage, learners will determine which goddesses they have encountered or evoked and how they have affected their lives. So they have an overview video of which Greek goddess are you to help them try to identify which ones they've encountered. They're going to share their ideas with their classmates. I will also, during this stage, model the assignment that they'll be working on. And this is where, we start, applying here, but we really start to integrate like that knowledge, at this stage here. And they'll also be required to provide a feed forward to their peers. So for here we have another tech tool, Google Jamboard, and then the goddess outlines will start to be created, after that assignment has been modeled. For human dimension and caring, learners will connect their purpose with the outcomes they want from themselves. So for this, we're going to just take a quick look at this small book here, but we're only going to read the preface and introduction for When God Was a Woman. And then we're going to explore the connections their peers, with their peers, about how men took control of the narrative in regard to the patriarchal system. So the activity for this, they're going to upload a picture to Padlet that will be provided for them. That visually represents a reason they believe men are deemed the greatest. And they're going to write a 2 to 3 sentence, explanation of why they believe that. And then for the last section here for the learning outcomes and goals, so learners will reflect on which goddesses they will heed and which they will ignore. So which ones are they going to take with them? And this requires, self-reflection. So students are going to self-reflect using Flipgrid. And then their peers will also give feedback on their goddess profiles that they will eventually present, and they will need to use examples from their personal experiences, movies/TV characters, or book characters, and also just how are they going to implement this knowledge, into their lives, or how have they already been implementing this into their lives. So that is the Diva Dive 3-column table. For the design process, an outline fleshing out the 3-column table even more, just to really break down like what will each module encompass. So for the Diva Dive course outline, there is roughly, let's see if it loads, here we go, 7 modules, but it will take over the course of 9 weeks. So that's about half a semester, which is what we have left. So in module 1, their learning outcome will be to understand what an archetype is and how there are goddesses in every woman. So this is the outline for module 1, week 1. Will be face-to-face. We're going to listen to the interview with the author, and then they'll be assigned the reading for the book, chapters 1 to 2. So it's the intro. And then the discussion pose is going to be what are your initial thoughts about how the goddesses represent our inner selves and their activation. Module 2 is for week 2. So the learning outcome is identify your purpose for attempting to connect with one or more goddesses and the outcomes you would like to obtain. Every module is going to be face-to-face. There will be room for a hybrid, depending on what's happening in the world. But everything is set up to also be converted over to an online platform if we needed to use Zoom or Google Meet. Everything that's being used can also be used as a strictly online format as well. But my organization for right now, we are face-to-face. And so I just wanted to emphasize that. So we'll discuss the chapters previously assigned, chapters 1 and 2. And this is where we're also going to annotate the preface and intro of When God Was a Woman as a group. So we'll read that, and look at that together. And then this is where they'll upload 1 to 2 pictures to the Padlet link that visually represents a reason they believe men are deemed the greatest, and then write their explanation for why. And this is where the choice comes in, as far as the COVA method, COVA model. So everyone will be assigned chapter 3 because that is our overarching overview of the goddesses that we'll be discussing for that next module. But students may choose which 2 additional chapters they will read between chapters 4 and 6. So this is where there's a detailed, specific breakdown of those goddesses, and they can choose which 2 out of the 4 that are listed there that they want to dive a little deeper into. Module 3, this is when we start to get very detailed in looking in. So module 3, 4, and 5 are identical in a way, because this is where we're actually synthesizing the information that we're learning. So I definitely wanted to make sure that I included collaboration in this. So like I said, each module 3 is the Virgin Goddesses. So after we've discussed, chapter 3 overall, even though they've read chapters 4 and 6, but remember, they only chose 2 out of the 4. So we're going to watch the video that breaks down all 4 of the goddesses, and then they'll break out into groups. They'll need to find others who have read chapters that they didn't. There will be some overlap, but I really want to encourage them to go seek the knowledge, that they chose not to dive into, but their peers did. And, this collaboration, this way, it's not just me up there lecturing. I really want them to become engaged with one another, and have that opportunity to really discuss, their takeaways. So in addition to that, they will be adding notes, from the video and the chapters that they've read to a shared Google Doc in their groups, so they can have somewhere that they're going to host all of this information. But it definitely relieves a lot of the pressure, because they're not taking notes over all 5 chapters. They're adding the notes over the chapters that they read, and then they'll be able to also obtain the notes for the chapters they didn't read. For module 3, the discussion post is to explain who you related to the most from the Virgin Goddesses, or why you didn't see any of them as an inner image of yourself. And this prompt is going to be for the modules all the way up to module 5 as well. So these, like I said, are almost identical. We're just looking at the 3 different groups overall for the archetypes. So jumping back in. So the assessment as learning. So the assessment as learning is the focus, because students learn best when they are able to collaborate, as I've previously explained, and when they're able to apply the content learned as we go along. They're tasked with analyzing how the content relates to their lives, and we will continue to do that throughout the duration of this course. So this further allows the learners to have control over their learning, especially when looking at how the module readings and discussions are assigned. They get to choose which chapters they would like to read. This also is the format of how they'll be able to interact and respond to their peers that read different chapters. So, the learners are in control of how they choose to present their ideas, voice their ideas, and the connections made, and authentically learn, through this process as well.